All right, we got the best executive producer. Yeah, I mean, hey,
What was that? I don't know. Was it a tree limb? I don't know. Was it a tree? I don't know. I'm not sure. It was the tarp.
what goes on behind the scenes is amazing. Hi, Rob Brown in Memphis. Jason Campbell's going to check in with us. Brendan Martin down in Ocala, executive producer. Doug Dean, Birmingham. Frank Duffy, North Georgia, north of Atlanta, trying to get on. Chuck Lavelle, legendary musician and big football fan, texted me this morning. He has had no power since midnight, 8 inches of rain, and he is trying to manage 4,000 acres. So we're going to get him next week or the week after. So keep your prayers going for everybody in the past. This is serious stuff, folks. And Ken Capps will check in about 8 a.m. Central from out in Texas, talking Longhorns, Sooners, Aggies, the Western flank. Hit that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications. Android, pen and paper handy, because we're bringing in one of Auburn's legends, Jason Campbell, proud native son of Taylorsville, Mississippi, NFL first-round draft pick of the Washington Redskins, now currently the color analyst on the Auburn Football Network. So we got a quarterback, Brendan. He's going to lead us through this stuff. So get pen and paper handy because class is in session.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. Jason Campbell, first off, thank you so much. I remember those years. I had 3 kids in 4 years, and I kind of don't remember them a little bit, but you said you were up late last night. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on here. Is everybody okay? That's priority number one, because you live in Atlanta, which is a big area. Kind of tell us what's happening there now.
Yeah, everyone's for the most part is doing okay. The main thing is a lot of flooding, flash flooding right now. So a lot of streets and everything for us travel. You can't get out the house right now. They're expecting some winds between 8 a.m. and 12 midday, but if the rain stops, that will help with the flash flooding to calm down. But not sure which roads are open. I just looking at the weather report right now before I can even travel to Auburn. I figure out when I can and how we're going to get there and what roads are open. So yeah, it was definitely could have been a lot worse, but still bad at the same time.
Yeah, we were, like I said, we're going to have Chuck Lavelle, a legendary musician, big college football fan, lives down around Macon. We were texting this morning. He's got 8 inches at his farm, no power since midnight, and said, let's reschedule. I said, absolutely. And again, man, you've been up with your baby all night. Everybody's good. That's number one. Man, look, love having you on here. Frank Duffy up in north of Atlanta, Doug Dean in Birmingham. Jason, I was listening to you at the end of the game last week on the Auburn Network. We were in Memphis, did not get to be down there. I loved your comments. You do a great job as a color analyst with Andy Burcham on the Auburn Network, saying it's going to be up to the leaders to go in that locker room and take hold of this team. Well, I know damn well what would have happened if you'd have been on that team, or Ronnie Brown or Cadillac, people like that. Kind of give your take on what you're seeing, and you know the quarterback position quite well. Again, first-round draft pick of the Washington Redskins, and played in the league for 10 years.
Yeah, just overall, coaches can coach all day, but when things are happening on the football field as a player, you have to be the one to kind of rally the troops, right? So if you're a quarterback or if you're in the huddle and, you turn the ball over and then you come back to the sideline and you go back out there, you turn the ball over again, somebody's got to grab the guys by the jerseys and in the huddle and just say, hey, lock in and focus and everything. But when you go to the sideline and not too many guys are you're putting your arms around each other saying, hey, it's okay. Like, somebody got to pull the guys together, though.
Yeah.
Someone's got to get all the guys in the huddle. And, you see guys do it defensively. I saw a couple of guys grab the whole defense and, kind of get at each other. But offensively, I just haven't seen that. And, Peyton wears a C on his chest. You're supposed to be a captain. But it doesn't always have to be the quarterback. Sometimes the quarterback loses some confidence when they're turning the ball over at the rate that they're turning the ball over. They may feel like they can't say anything. But, at the end of the day, like, you are a leader. And sometimes it's not fun, but you have to still be able to step in there and have courage enough to talk to your guys. But, it can be a receiver sometimes. It can be an offensive lineman. It can be a tight end. It just got to be somebody that the team respects offensively that can gravitate on the sideline that will listen and try to stop the flood.
Well, I was talking with Eugene Asante at SEC Media Days in Dallas, and I said, your nickname, I'm going to give it to you, is the Bone Collector. He's like, what? I mean, but he really is that kind of leader, but so are you. Doug Dean, you're on here with Jason Campbell and Frank Duffy, so let's get going.
Jason, good morning. War Eagle to you, brother.
Hey, good morning.
Jason, I'm only 20 years late. Thanking you, you know where I'm going with this. Thanking you personally for standing in the pocket. You knew you were going to get hit hard, and sorry to this be at your expense, Duffy, but to get that ball off to Courtney Taylor to keep the chains moving in just a classic Auburn LSU game. Frank Duffy, I guess you were there too.
I was. I've been there for all of them.
He's Mr. LSU Tiger, Jason, in case you're wondering.
And with that play in mind, Jason, there is some of that both these quarterbacks, regardless of whether Hank or Peyton start, I think it's going to be Peyton personally, but I don't think we've seen the last of Hank getting playing time. But there comes a point where they have to have great judgment to know which is the play that I need to stand in the pocket, knowing I'm going to get hit, but I'm confident my receiver can go get the ball. Talk about what that psychological growth process feels like as a great quarterback, Jason.
Yeah, I think early on this season, when you look at Peyton and then you saw Hank over the last 2 weeks as well, the one thing that jumps to mind to me is it's almost like they're trying to force the ball to guys to make them happy. We brought in some big time recruits at the receiver position, and these guys are very talented, and it's only one ball, but everybody wants catches, everybody wants touches. And when I watch some of their decision making, it almost, to me as a quarterback, is saying, okay, you're trying to force the ball to a guy because you don't want to hear him complain. You want to make sure he's happy. And when you do that, you make bad decisions. You put yourself in a tough situation. I go back to the 4th and 2 play in the Cal game. It's 4th and 2. You got 2 inside slants versus off coverage versus a blitz, but you got Cam Coleman pressed on the outside, but Robert Lewis and Lambert Smith both have off guys in front of them. So they're 5 yards and they're off, and they're outside leverage or head up. So the inside slants, they're all day. So they blitz, and I see Peyton throw the go ball to Cam Coleman. That's not a high percentage throw on 4th and 2. The slants are wide open. Just take the slant, easy first down, move the chain. The slant's going to run for 10, 15 yards anyways because of the coverage he got. So when I see that, it's almost like, okay, you're trying to force the ball to make Cam happy. You can't do that. You got to play within the system, play within the game. Once you
Take
start
what they
winning,
give you.
all right.
You got
Once
to take what they give you.
Got to tell you again. Once you start winning, guys will start fitting in, and I think we got to get back to running the ball a little bit more. I think we're averaging, good yards per carry running the football. I think that can take some pressure off these quarterbacks. But as a quarterback, if you're going to play SEC football and you want to compete for a championship, you better be ready to stand in the pocket and take them under the chin. And there's going to be many times on 3rd downs and 4th down situations that it's not going to be a pretty pocket. Expect it to be dirty. Team's going to blitz. They're going to bring the house and see if you can handle it. If you can handle it, they'll slow off the blitzes. But if you can't, they're going to keep coming. And I think the one thing with this offense is these guys, it's not the offense as a whole. The offense looks good. We're ranked nationally in a lot of aspects. It's the decision making with the turnovers. And not all of them on the quarterbacks. Running backs got to hold on to the football.
Yeah.
And then, receivers got to catch the ball over the middle. It can't be tipped balls. Tipped balls don't find the ground.
And like I like to put it, with Hughes' RPO system, the quarterback's really supposed to be agnostic. That is to say, he doesn't care which receiver gets the ball, or if he reads and both quarterbacks have made some pretty good reads going to the run game. I think that the Oklahoma defense, which is their main advantage going into tomorrow, almost forces Freeze to be a little more run heavy.
They forced 7 turnovers already. And then you think about only giving up 14.7 scoring points on average per game. Everyone was expecting Tennessee to go in there and kind of light the scoreboard up on them, right? And that didn't happen. Their defense played really good against Tennessee. They actually gave them good field position, but just like Auburn, they turned the ball over. And it's going to be an evenly matched game because both teams are having a little bit of quarterback issues right now. And, they're going to start a freshman and everything. So our environment needs to be hostile. But as far as us, I probably expect Peyton probably start, just because if you're going to be in this type of game, you're probably going to go with the most experienced guy, right? And it's probably Peyton. But like I said, I don't think we've seen the last of Hank this year. I think Peyton may get the nod for the next 2 games. You get Oklahoma, you get Georgia. And if he doesn't get it done, then you probably come back after the bye week and you probably go back with Hank. So, we'll see what happens. But tomorrow, I think this is a game where if Peyton starts, you're the senior, and you're going against a freshman on the offensive sideline. I think Auburn got to feel good about, hey, just take care of the football. We got a chance to win this game.
Let me throw this one out. In fairness, after he reminded everybody of your pass to Courtney Taylor out of Centerville, Alabama, which is legendary. Frank, we're going to try to get Tommy Hodson and Eddie Fuller on here from LSU, the earthquake game. I was there. I'm still traumatized.
Yeah.
Hey,
Only fair.
I was there too, and I'll never forget CBS breaking in Brent Musburger and Irv Cross and Phyllis George with the site of the seismograph from the Geology Center when that hit. I still remember it. Jason, I do want to let you know, as an LSU guy, man, you have a hell of a game, and we were great rivals over those years. I think Marcus Spears and Marquise Hill is still trying to find you somewhere in that pocket. They're still trying to rush you. But listen, I got to ask you. I know we're a heavy Auburn state radio show. This is a pivotal game coming up. In fact, we were actually supposed to bring my LSU RV to the loveliest village on the plains. We were going to do 2 broadcasts from there until the storm came up.
Yeah.
So this was a big game for us at Sidelines. But I know it's a big game for the Auburn community, bringing Oklahoma in. 2 things. Number one, it is a must-win for both programs. Coming off of the 2 losses, it's a must-win. Having said that, what is your approach that Auburn has to take on both sides of the ball? Because I think it's going to be won or lost in the lines like most SEC games are. It's going to be the boys up front. But what is from a fan and a culture perspective, I've told this to the guys, Oklahoma coming in, this is their first road trip in the SEC. And I told Doug and I told Rob, I don't think there's a better place in the SEC that would show the Oklahoma fans hospitality and what SEC football is like, in this brotherhood that we have here in the conference than Auburn. So can you speak to what that atmosphere is going to be like in Auburn tomorrow, and what exactly does Hugh Freeze have to do on both sides of the ball and in the lines to control this game? Because Auburn needs a win and Oklahoma needs a win.
Yeah, you said exactly right. This is a must-win game for both teams. That's what makes it so intriguing. You don't want to go down 0-2 in the SEC to start the season. Auburn anticipated having the first five home games, and everybody, I think, across the nation probably had us circled to be 4-0 at this time. And the fact that we've lost 2 games that we probably should have won, how is this team going to respond is going to be the biggest question for tomorrow. How's the team morale? Or that's why I say, are the leaders going to gravitate this team and say, hey, we can't hang our head on, Arkansas lost and Cal lost. This is an opportunity to try to rewrite the script. And if you can go out there and get a good win against a ranked team, when is the last time Auburn beat a ranked team? It's been a while. So I think if you can go out there and beat a ranked team tomorrow, I think that does something for your team morale before you head to Athens. But overall, this game always won in the trenches, but especially in this game, because if you have quarterbacks that are kind of struggling a little bit and trying to dig themselves out a little bit, both teams are going to run the ball. And this is going to be one of those old games, slashing, in your face, down dirty, who likes it, and the toughest guy's going to win. And that's just honestly going to be the truth. And who controls third downs? Oklahoma offense struggles on third downs. They're only completing 28% on third downs. Auburn defense only giving up 37% on third down. And that number will be even better for Auburn defense if we can get off the field on third and longs. So we do a really good job of putting offenses in third and long situations. But the problem is we giving up third and longs, whether it's interference calls, or whether it's not paying attention to the quarterback when you're supposed to be in a spot and quarterback scrambling for a first down, and just those type of things, or losing your man in coverage coming up and got to get behind you. Just those things that you can't have. To get off the field, you got to get off the field on third and long situations, and those are backbreakers. And last week it hurt us in the Arkansas game because we got to field on third and long. Even with the turnovers, we win the game. So,
Yeah.
it's just that I think Oklahoma, they're going to lean heavily on their defense. I expect them to bring pressure, try to create 8-man boxes on first and second down and say, hey, we know you're going to run the football, and we're going to try to create you to be in third and long situations because we're going to load the line of scrimmage. And which I like that aspect if they do that, because I think Lambert Smith has a matchup. I think Cam Coleman will be healthier this week. And I think he'll be ready to roll. I think Robert Lewis, we got to get him more involved in the offense. He runs great routes. We just got to get him more involved in the offense. And I think
They'll see more single
Malcolm Simmons-
coverage. They
Yeah,
will
so,
see
yeah.
more single coverage, and that actually plays to Auburn's strength. It really
Mhm.
does.
Yeah, it plays the Auburn strength because you take a lot of reading out of it for the quarterback. You don't have to read, what the coverage is going to look like at the start of the snap and what they're going to get to. They're going to show you, because if you're running the football, you're going to get one-on-one. Now it's just about, hey, what's the best matchup? And those going to be things Coach Freeze probably tell them all week. Find the best matchup. Find the best matchup. Third and short situation. Who has the best opportunity versus one-on-one? Don't take the low percentage throw down the field. Let's get the offense going and stay on the field by converting the more high percentage throws.
There will be some plays. I
Mhm.
can just about guarantee you that it's going to, what Venables is
Yeah.
going to show is that you need to be throwing on this down, or you need to be throwing a deep vertical. And I think the discipline for Freeze, he's going to be in the microphone into Peyton or Hank's headset. And there are going to be times where the right move there is to be stubborn as hell and run the ball anyway, mitigate risk. But for all the misery surrounding the two losses, Jason, and that, with expectations of getting to this Oklahoma game 4-0 is what I thought might happen. Auburn has quietly got some pretty big bragging points in analytics. 7th nationally in red zone defense. I know we hadn't played a juggernaut offense yet, but it's still football. 7th nationally, holding opponents to score only 57% of the time. Keldrick Falk, who's a future NFL player, in my opinion, he is not tied for first nationally in quarterback hurries with 14, and second nationally in quarterback pressures. And you already mentioned KLS. He ranks second nationally in yards per reception, 28 yards. So I don't think you go away from that with Auburn 5th in the nation per completion yardage, 16 yards. You don't go away from that, but you probably have to pick your spots when it looks like it's there, and maybe you have an extra tight end, you go max protection, and see if one of your two best receivers can
when you think
go
about it
get a
as a whole.
50-50 ball, Jason.
You just that's why I tell everybody nationally we're up there number wise. I wouldn't change my system. I would just change maybe how I operate once I get to the red zone, because in the red zone is where some of those crucial turnovers, just crushed us, because you take 3 points off the board, and then you take momentum away because you turn the ball over in scoring territory. And I think once you get to the red zone, you might lean a little bit more heavier on running the football and not have your quarterback try to make some of these throws over the middle where the ball keeps getting tipped or picked off in those scenarios. So I definitely agree with you. Once you cross the 30-yard line, maybe you shrink the playbook a lot to a run game. And then you try to utilize Peyton, if he's the quarterback, utilize his legs a little bit more in the red zone, in the RPO game. And you make it everything easier for those guys to not be able to make mistakes, because Right now, we're negative 14 in the turnover differential.
Shoot,
Yeah,
crazy.
you're not going to win many games. I don't care if you're
Dead
playing
last
young
in the
junior
nation.
college.
Yeah.
Dead
You're not
last.
going
Yeah.
you're not going to win turning the football over at that rate. So,
Yep.
and the positive for me is, as much as we turn the football over in those two games, it still was 7-point games going into
Yeah.
the fourth quarter.
Both of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
turn the ball over at that rate, it should be 3 scores, ahead. So it
Yeah.
just tells me
Yeah.
like we're more talented and we're deeper, but we
There
got to stop doing the one thing that hurts every football team. That's turn the ball over at the rate
That's
we're
right.
doing it. And to
That's
me,
right.
that's just a mental thing. Like,
and it feels like, sorry I walked on you. It feels like there's no middle ground tomorrow. Either this Auburn offense will have the bad habit of fumbleitis, throwing picks, or not, or if it changes, if there's a way they can be more focused and disciplined and avoid those kind of mistakes. And by the way, some
Yeah.
interceptions, as Aaron Murray pointed out in his film study, which is beautifully done, that first Hank Brown interception, it's just unlucky. He threw it to the right guy, but the defender gets his head around while the ball is in the air and tips it. What can you do about that? But 3 others were very avoidable. So I noticed that Duff is our resident Vegas expert on here. And the Sharp, this thing opened, giving Auburn 2.5 at
Yep.
home.
Yeah.
I always love Auburn as a home dog. Are you kidding me? And Jordan Hare, unless you're playing a prohibitive favorite, and which I don't think we are. But the Sharps, Frank, the Sharps have moved to
Yeah,
Auburn.
I like
late,
Auburn in this
and
game.
it's now
I
a
think
pick 'em at most
even
of
though
the
you're not
books,
getting
Frank.
the points, but I think it comes down to this, Doug, Rob, Jason. Auburn has to control Auburn football, which is running the ball. You run the ball, you don't put it on the ground. You're going to keep that other opponent's team off the field, but you're going to basically make this a trenches game. Then when you start having Venables bring up that defense, then you can hit that 50-50 ball, down the field. Auburn's got to stretch the field, but then control the run. I think it's critical Auburn outrushes Oklahoma by at least 25 to 50 yards tomorrow. If they do that, they win the game.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the Iron Bowl last year, and then when we played Georgia at home last year. Both of those games we could have won. We ran the football really well, rushed for over 200 yards in those games, and we controlled the line of scrimmage for most of the football game. We just got unlucky at the end against Alabama, and then the Georgia game, our safety, at the time, that was guarding Brock Bowers, got hurt. So he wasn't on the field, and Simpson wasn't on the field in the fourth quarter. So if you play that type of game, for the rest of the season, you got a chance to turn things around, but you got to take care of the first one first, and that's getting the Oklahoma win, because I think coming into the season, everyone kind of circled this one as, okay, it can go either or, so if you can get this game, I think it does a huge thing for your locker room morale and just confidence in your quarterbacks and everything. So I expect this to be a ground and pound, but I do expect we're going to have to hit some big plays in the passing game, because their one-on-one coverage will be there.
You got to
Jason,
stretch that defense.
I want to throw
Gotta
something at
stretch
you, Jason.
Frank likes to call these manhood games. I think this game is heavily on the O line. You're going to have the moments where you got to open run lanes, even if they're outnumbering you, and you've got to give pass protection those occasions that Hugh goes through the air. So I think the coach that is willing to win this one ugly and not try to.
That's
think
right.
it's
No,
a
I was
beauty
just going to.
contest,
That's
throwing
right.
The ball,
And I want to
advantage
ask
him.
you,
Sorry
Jason.
about that, Rob.
You played for a masterful psychologist, Thomas Hawley Tuberville from Camden, Arkansas, and he could look real laid back, and then he'd go, "Yes, Coach Senator Tubbs." But
That's Senator
it was
Tubbs
so
to you.
cool. He would be on this show the first year we started, just about every Friday. He was so gracious to do. He helped put us on the map. I can't thank him enough. But I remember in 2007, Auburn was struggling early in the season, and I was at one of my kids' three or four soccer games before noon on a Saturday, so it's all a blur. But after Auburn had lost, I think, to Mississippi State, I told someone, I said, I'll guarantee you a sack full of crystals, with or without cheese. Auburn goes to the Swamp and wins Saturday with a freshman lineup, Ryan Pugh and Zimba and all those guys, and Wes Byram out of Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas, had to kick it not once but twice. And the psychology of that team. So guys, wouldn't we agree? He is absolutely spot on in his analysis. Jason, you study this stuff like some money manager does looking at a stock, and it's outstanding. This has been some of the best analysis. Oh, no.
Well,
It's been some of the best analysis, and you've also
Yeah,
got
now,
the best internet signal of any guest
now
I
you got
think
me
we've
there. Okay, I
ever
lost
had.
you just for a second, but
Yeah,
yeah, like I
yeah.
say, the whole thing for me is how do you look forward? Everyone's been focusing so much on these last two losses, and I get it. There's so much anticipation coming to the season, so much excitement.
Yeah.
And when you get to a point where, it's just all, people are starting to look forward to next season or basketball season, I'm just like, hold on, let's pump the brakes. Coach Freeze
Whoa.
told you when he got the job, he's going to build this thing through the high school. And the
sure.
fact that you got to build it through the high school, it takes a little time. His
And
first class
Jason,
was ranked 12. Last year was ranked 7. This year is shaping out to be a top 5 class, and then next year is
yeah,
supposed to be a top 5 class. So I think you have to get 3 years into this thing before you really start to see, hit turn to high levels. But I say this, I hope Auburn fans show up tomorrow and be loud. I hope they be encouraged. I hope they don't show up and, have the same mindset
With their
sometimes I
arms
think
I'll
the
be there.
players
folded,
have
pissed
is,
off. Can't
okay,
have
we're
that.
going and
Yeah.
looking good, but just waiting for something bad to happen. We got to change the narrative and just start saying, hey, we're going to see this thing all the way through. And, let's get
Yeah.
well,
loud tomorrow. Let's
exactly.
be excited. It was hard for us to get loud last week because we kept turning the ball over.
Yeah.
So, it's just,
Yeah.
we just got to get that. We got to get mentally, we've got to get better
They'll be
on
there.
protecting the
They'll be there,
football. That's a
Jason.
mental thing and focus. But as a crowd, though, let's do our part, show up and get behind these guys, and let's help will them to a win like we almost did last year against 2 top teams that came in here.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because y'all have
100%.
to be excited about the trajectory of Hugh Freeze. Because look, y'all, us, Alabama, and Georgia, along with Ohio State, are the
Okay,
top
y'all hear
5
me?
in recruiting. I mean,
Yeah.
I
there's
can't
an
hear y'all though.
incredible trajectory that's coming.
Jason, listen, I know you've been up all night with your baby.
Everybody froze but Doug.
Yeah, okay. But appreciate you being on here with us. I know you've got to get back and tend to stuff there in Atlanta, but I'll see you tomorrow at the tailgate tent. We lost him if he can come back, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Rob, he
Yeah,
said
right there
he
at
was
the end.
having
But guys,
y'all were
what
froze. I
brilliant
was not for
analysis
whatever
and
reason.
great questions as always from the cross examiners, Duffy and Dean, the Irish duo. Hey,
That's right.
a joke is always how many German stand-up comedians?
Should we
do
start a
know?
law firm?
But how many great Irish lawyers have we ever met? There ain't anything better in a courtroom than a Scotch-Irish Catholic lawyer. I mean, I don't think you can beat them. Nobody tells a better story.
Duffy,
There you go.
You remember Johnny?
Duffy,
Remember
Dean,
Johnny
Fleece 'em and
Carson's
skin 'em.
accounting firm, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howell? That was awesome.
Yeah, let me tell you something. Hey, Rob, we need to quickly get to, and I hate that we're going to be a week later getting that special guest who will not be named a rock and roll legend, but I look forward to that a heck of a lot. But I got to tip my hat to the people whose pulse is quickening, I dare say, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The pulse is quickening in Athens, Georgia. That's another damn game of the century on paper. I mean, not on paper. In reality, they're both highly ranked.
Let me say something
in the stadium
real quick.
That's going to be a fun one.
Quick before Ken Capps is going to join us from out in Texas here in a minute. I want to say something about our sponsors, like Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the square, historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. They've got stuff coming in for the fall fashions. Barber, STS, Filson. They're the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. Great looking clothing. Take your wife out there, girlfriend. Take your kids. They've got everything for kids. Great looking women's clothes. Open again Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the vitamin a prebiotic. I put it in my. Sometimes I put Bailey's in there, but not this morning because I've got to drive to Auburn right after this show. But they put the vitamin shop for Mississippi, and that goo. They have a staff of trained and know what they are doing. Proud to have them as a sponsor. And I like this, man. Hey, I'm telling you what. for a Georgia Tech Florida State football game. I love it. You know, that's the cool thing about that audience. And I'll see him tomorrow at the tailgate. Looking forward to that. But Doug, we know this, and Ken, you know this from talking. Man, the mental part, you know, you gotta, and what he said, you know what, the truest thing I believe he said, Doug and Ken, he said, it looks like this is what I thought, and he said it. The quarterback, Auburn, looks like they're trying to get the ball to all these guys because they brought in all these star freshmen, and they're trying to please everybody. Mother Teresa said it.
That was shocking.
We can't all do something. Wait for your ball to come to you.
That was
coming,
shocking.
but it's about the team first.
That's absolutely right.
That was shocking to hear, and it was Jason's opinion. He was, to be clear to our audience, especially people that, you know, lately it's been the week to take free punches at Hugh Freeze. Okay. So screw the Feinbaum media and those that are unfair in how they did. It's fine to criticize. I didn't like Freeze, you know, claiming that he would beat Arkansas 9 out of 10 games right after he got whipped by them. I didn't like that. But coaches in the heat of the moment say things. Some coaches get away with it in the media. Others get pounded. But I look at that Jason observed that. That's what he's seeing was alarming. And there may be something to it when you start getting so focused on recruiting. And now you don't just recruit them through signing day. Yep. You have to keep recruiting them lest they enter
I know
the
this sounds
transfer
crazy
portal.
To say it, but I'm going to say it. I've always believed that a lot of the people, when it comes to recruiting, a guy's committed to you, but then he says he's going to take other visits. Well, would you want your fiance to date other people before you got married? I know everybody tries to flip people, but I think the coaches nowadays really have a tough battle that they're fighting. But I think it's true that you get a lot of pout faces on the sidelines because they're not getting the ball, and it goes into the fans are going, oh, he's gone. And we got to stop that. Ken Capps, you've been around this game a while. You're same age as all of us. I mean, but are you seeing, look what they're doing at Texas with Arch and Quinn Ewers. Why, you know what? I think I could watch a Manning play 100 years and I'd be happy. There's something about that family that all started in the Delta on Highway 49.
Well, you're right, and you know, there's a lot of. I've been listening to your show, and I'm glad our guest is okay. And Rob, I guess you're getting a little rain from the hurricane there as well, from what I'm watching on the Weather Channel this morning. But you know, there's a lot of quarterback, things going on down here in Texas and in Oklahoma. You know, Oklahoma's quarterback situation is a huge mess right now, and Jackson Arnold was benched last week in favor of this fellow named, and I want to make sure I got it right because I don't even know that much about him, but I've learned a lot now in the last few days. Michael Hawkins Jr. And the reason I like him is because he's from the Metroplex. He is from Frisco, which is just north of Dallas. He was a 4-star, number 3 dual quarterback in the country coming out of high school. And when I was reading up on him, the thing that scared me the most about, especially if you're a Texas fan reading up about him, is some of the senior defensive guys said he looked like Kyler Murray. So, but to have, but for Jackson Arnold, I mean, Jackson Arnold has been the guy in waiting in this program for 2 years. And I mean, think about it. He's the guy that Dylan Gabriel left. He transferred after a great year, transferred out because he saw the writing on the wall and saw that Jackson Arnold was going to be the QB1 this year. Now, 4 games in, you've got a new quarterback. I don't think Jackson Arnold's done for the year, although some people think he is, but I think he'll be back. But what to your point there, Rob is absolutely right. You know, Manning has been waiting patiently, just like Hawkins has up there. And look at it. I mean, his family has been supportive of him. Every school has been trying to flip him, saying, look, you're not going to get to play at Texas. And it was the support of his dad and grandpa and Peyton and Eli and all those guys saying, look, you're with Sark. He's going to put you in at the right time and the right place and make sure that you are put in for a chance to succeed, not just thrown to the wolves one day. And kind of like what happened to Michael Hawkins last week. And now look what he's doing. I mean, his start last week, that was his first official start. You know, I wanted to make sure I got the stats right, so I wrote it down. You know, that's how us reporters do here, Rob. He was 15 of 29 for 258 yards. He had 2 TDs, but he also had 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions was tipped at the line, so that was on him. And then the other interception bounced off of his receiver and was caught by a ULM guy. But
Doug.
Yeah, really.
But
you know what? That's a pretty good performance. I mean, ULM wasn't a very strong team. I understand that, but good performance to come out there and play. But the thing I liked about it, Arch was not happy with it. He says, I can do better than this. And so, tomorrow I'm down here in Austin for the Texas-Mississippi State game. Mississippi State, is having enough problems, and then they lose their quarterback, Blake Chafin, for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So, what happens now? And then, of course, you've still got Quinn. I mean, Quinn, and that's the other thing about Sark. I really have to hand it to him. And again, I'm not a Texas homer by any stretch of the imagination. But, Sark has made it clear right off the bat, Quinn Ewers is our QB1. Okay, so when he's healthy, he's coming back. There's going to be none of this quarterback controversy or none of this mess that the media is trying to stir up. But look at it. You could rest Quinn tomorrow if you wanted to, if he wanted to. And then Texas has a bye week on October the 5th before playing Texas in the Metroplex in the Cotton Bowl. Red River Shootout. And by the way, the great state of Texas State Fair begins today. So that's another thing to celebrate. But, he could possibly rest Quinn for 2 more weeks before getting to the Oklahoma game. So do you do that? Do you let Arch keep playing?
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You absolutely sit Ewers. You do not play him and risk him. You wait for him to come back for the shootout. Absolutely. That's a smart play.
I was going to tell Kent your insights for over a long period of time about the great Oklahoma Sooners program are appreciated this Friday, Ken, because of the obvious Oklahoma coming to Auburn. And, I wouldn't be the most shocking thing to me if you look at the dynamics and injured players going into this big game. It may not be big on a national scale because Auburn and Oklahoma didn't do their part, but it's still big in terms of those two. That's a helmet football game, that OU on the helmet and arguably even the AU on our helmet. And that red and white, you have to hope if you're an Auburn fan that it sort of transmits to the fans as if it were an Iron Bowl looking down on the field and brings that kind of fervor. But I'll just tell you, it wouldn't be shocking to me if you see what happened to Auburn a week ago, you could absolutely see happen to Oklahoma tomorrow. Let me explain. When you bring a true freshman QB, I don't care how fast he is, and Oklahoma's got all 5, get this, 5 of their best wide receivers out with injury, then guess what Durkin is going to do? It's a fireable offense, Rob and Duff, if he doesn't bring heavy pressure most of the time, especially third and unmanageable. And there's going to be some third and unmanageables because their O-line is also patchwork, and they are in their 11th, this is shocking, 11th iteration of what group of 5 O-linemen they put together. And I'm not saying Auburn is an NFL O-line either, but I think that it all sets up to mean this freshman quarterback is going to have a lot of savages swarming at him. And that usually does not end well on the road in a place like Jordan-Hare with the true freshman. So my point being, you could very well see Hawkins yanked at some point, second quarter, third quarter, and Jackson Arnold back in. And then the question becomes, can Arnold do what Peyton?
Well, here's
Clark
another
was
good
not a
one
week
for you, and
ago,
I bet
find himself
Oklahoma
again and find a way to win
nobody in Texas or Oklahoma ever thought this with Oklahoma going to the SEC. Right now, they are statistically dead last in the SEC in offense. I would never have thought that, never in a million years.
Yeah.
And but
yeah.
Yeah.
And Auburn's
Right.
top
They've already
five
That's
got,
may
right.
as
I mean,
well not
they've
be
already
with
got in
dead
4
last in
games
turnover
more
margin.
turnovers than most teams have in an entire year.
Right. Well,
That
and the other
they've
but
got.
the other thing is, OU's defense is playing lights out, and they're one
Yeah.
of the first. They're one of in the top 3 in the SEC. So I'm very much looking forward to that game tomorrow. The Texas game is at 3:00, and so it'll dump out just in time to go back to my dear saint at mother's house here in Austin and sit down and watch that game. And of course, flipping between right, and it's at night, correct? Am I right on that?
No, Auburn's 2:30.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, I guess
afternoon.
I'll have to. We have. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We have the worst
Bama Georgia gets the
Wi-Fi
night game.
in DKR Texas Memorial Stadium, and when you're trying to watch, I'm serious. And so when you're trying to keep up with all these games on your phone, and I've got people sitting around me that have fancier phones and more expensive phones, and they can't get Wi-Fi either. And so you've got to depend on, what they're going to put on the stadium scroll or on the scoreboard. And I mean, I really want to pay attention to that Auburn Oklahoma game tomorrow, because again, you're getting 2 weeks away from Texas OU, and I don't care how good Oklahoma's playing, how bad Oklahoma's playing. They're going to come out of that tunnel at the Cotton Bowl with every one of those red hairs on fire and be ready to play.
Frank.
Well, we said early on that this was going to be a pivotal crossroads game for both these programs, Auburn and Oklahoma. This was going to be a pivotal game. What we didn't expect was the number of losses, but it is still a pivotal game for the programs. And look, if Auburn beats Oklahoma, which I think is going to happen, you're going to have Oklahoma going into that Red River shootout. You're exactly right, Kim. With their hair on fire, they're going to be a wounded animal. So
right.
It's going to be an exciting. I think it's going to be an exciting game tomorrow. Oklahoma's first road trip in the SEC, I think, is going to be a very memorable one. I think Jordan-Hare is going to be packed. I think it's going to be exciting. I don't believe all this. Oh, well, there's grumblings. I don't believe it, because I know the Auburn people know that there's cavalry over the hill with a number 5 recruiting class as well. So I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. I think it's going to come down to the lines of scrimmages. I would certainly bet the under if I was going to bet a totals on this. But yeah, 40. I think I saw bumped up to 45 and a half, but I think that's the play. But I can see this being a 17-13, 20 to 14 sort of just knockdown drag out, because I'm telling you, the team that leaves that stadium with the W will have earned it tomorrow in Jordan-Hare.
Doug Dean.
And I'm disgusted sometimes when this comes out of my mouth, but there are certain games that might be
exactly
true. Don't give away your chance at field goals. I mean, if you get inside the 30, for the love of God, I don't care if it's 4th and 2 going against OU, and the same thing for Oklahoma on offense. If you've got a chance, you like your field goal kicker, this might be one of those games that you just have to win it, 13-10 if it goes that way. I think there'll be a little more scoring. I don't think it'll be over, but I think it's going to be I like Auburn about 23
Doug Dean, question
23
for you.
to 20.
And I got to say, and this is again
normally low scoring.
In a minute, we're going to switch and get into this Arkansas A&M game, Georgia, Alabama. We're going to go rapid fire. But Doug Dean, in all of our years, you and me have watching a lot of games at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I bet I've been to over 200 Auburn games. 2006. Arguably the most physical 60 minutes.
Brutal.
Now that's old school. But I mean, that was a physical, but it shaped Auburn for the rest of the season. What you've got to do now, as Jason Campbell referenced, is hold it together. Florida's off this weekend. We're blessed to have a ton of Gators that watch this show. And I'm telling you, I want them doing well, because we got the Buddy Martin show, and Wednesday night, Buddy and Brendan did an awesome interview with Coach Urban Meyer. God, this guy just said, if you're going to be the running backs coach at the University of Florida, you better be the best running backs coach in America. Watch Swamp Kings, and it will restore your faith. Say what you want about Urban Meyer. 187-32 is what I'll say.
This game reminds me a little bit of LSU and Ole Miss 2 years ago,
Frank,
when Tennessee came in and just curb stomped us in Tiger Stadium. But 2 weeks later, we had a shot against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss went up on us 2 scores. And we then went on to score 45 unanswered points, ran him out. Jackson Dart was running around for his life.
Yeah.
That's what Auburn's game is tomorrow. Yes, you've got disappointment, but you still have the rest of this season as a trajectory to build upon. This is the
It's way too early. Way too early to think it. Auburn was sorry to walk on you, Frank. Auburn was never realistically going to contend for the SEC this year. So you lost 2 games you shouldn't have lost. And it's almost all because of turnovers. You could add 3rd and longs, ridiculous play on defense. But, Rob, I'm feeling the wrath. Is it just me of your good Alabama and Georgia listeners? We need to give some thought and attention to that. Here's my most interesting storyline. It's a very early season test for Kalen DeBoer and on the whole question. And he can either one of these teams, let's be real with the new playoff format. Either one of these teams can lose a competitive game, and they're in fine shape. That you'd rather be playing with house money and get this one because where it can help you is if you win this game, you might be able to relegate that opponent to being out depth.
This is
9th, 10th, and they have to play an extra game before you see them again. So there's a lot of chess pieces here, but man, I'm going to watch with great interest. Kirby Smart is still, I guess, the dean of the SEC now since Saban retired. But, the Alabama fans are saying we're just not skipping a beat. Kalen DeBoer is as good or better offensively. Kirby Smart saying not so fast, my friend. And I would just my only take. I'm not predicting the win in this one. It's anybody's game. But I do think be cautious if you're trying to extrapolate from that Georgia.
Sometimes what happens is you've got to get a dead cat
football
bounce.
doesn't work that way.
Georgia does it every year under Kirby. And he's had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Ken Capps, let's talk quickly, too, about Arkansas and A&M. A&M's won 9 of these 10, and it's been a PETA game for Arkansas. PETA, pain in the ass. And they're going to get it up in Fayetteville next year. And, by the way, go easy on the Hogs. I'm going up there Thursday night as a guest of Jim McClellan, and Maury Gaston and I are going to be up there all weekend for the Arkansas and Tennessee game. Now, Audrey, my wife is a Vol for life. She will be on her best behavior. And I know those people up there are really dialed in. If they can beat A&M, Ken, and we're going to bounce it around, go Ken, Frank, Doug, rapid fire. Your thoughts on this one in Jerry's World tomorrow? Because I think it's ginormous.
Well, and look at it this way. This is another one of those great rivalry games. It's called the Southwest Classic, the Southwest Rivalry. It's going away. It's not going to be played in Jerry World anymore. And I mean, this thing has become a really nice fixture here in Dallas-Fort Worth. People love coming to that game. And there are a lot of Aggies. There are a lot of Arkansas folks that live in the Metroplex. Well, we're getting a lot of Metroplex in today.
Absolutely, and, over and under 20.
That's right. But seriously, that's a fun game to go to. And it's really blown my mind that Arkansas has been so dominant over A&M. But you look at A&M the last few games, what have they had? They've had turnovers. They've had fluke plays that have gone against them. So, I mean, and again, I totally agree with you. If Arkansas pulls this one out, the final game at Jerry World, wow, I'm already thinking about that Texas Arkansas game up there in Fayetteville. That's coming
November
up
16th.
A few weeks from now. And then the other thing is, of course, you got A&M. A&M's got to win one of these games, and they've got their whole other problem at quarterback. I mean, again, they don't know what they're doing yet. And is Reed going to stay in there? They going to put Connor back in there? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question for Owen Buchanan. But it's like the old line goes. I think it was actually Steve Spurrier said this the other day. Again, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback.
That's right. Frank Duffy.
Great. Yep, I like Texas A&M in this. I hate to say it ever that I like Texas A&M in anything, but I will tell you, Auburn gifted Arkansas that game. I think Arkansas is fool's goal at this point. I think Pittman's a dead man walking. And I think Texas A&M showed me something the last couple of weeks. Ever since that Notre Dame game, and look, I had Notre Dame in that game. I liked them. We were out in Vegas for our game with USC, and that was a nice win for me at the window. But let me tell you, Texas A&M, watch them. They're starting to really come on. And look, this game is kind of like a Auburn LSU light. There's always some bizarre thing that's going to happen in Jerry World late in the game. OT, double OT, some craziness. So I wouldn't bet Texas A&M. I wouldn't lay the 5.5. But I think Texas A&M is going to be able to win. Might cover, might not. But I think they're a winner.
Doug Dean. Great.
Rob, humility in sports like this is overrated, and I'm not going to be humble. I had Memphis, if you followed my Blue Plate specials, and I had Vanderbilt taking it to the wire, which they did overtime at Mizzou needs to decide who they want to be when they grow up. But you're interested in the Arkansas. As this is not my Blue Plate special, but I'll give you that in a minute, and I'll give you a hint. Rain Man, that's my hint. I'll tell you what my Blue Plate special is tomorrow. So I think I'm as reparations to Sam Pittman for Coach Freeze's unfortunate, not so classy comment that we would have won 9 out of 10 times. I'm sticking with Arkansas. I think Petrino's feeling his mojo right now after last week. Granted, they wasn't a perfect game, but he knows how to use this really lanky, fast QB, and I think they can go into College Station and pull the little bit of a shocker. I don't think it's a huge shocker. My Blue Plate special. Gus Malzahn is going to rise up and beat the Fighting Prime Times of Colorado tomorrow. But that line 14. Is curiously large, and Gus is known for blowing these kind of these big national interest games. But I think UCF wins, but they don't get over the number.
Great take on
Colorado
and I'm with
points,
Doug.
But
I think Hugh Freeze's comments. I wouldn't say that. Always give credit to that team across the way. Damn it, they beat you. But what that's doing is
agreed.
And I think it is. And the Fighting, I believe, if we get
good point.
In Columbia, South Carolina, former Auburn players, the defensive coordinator, along with Marcus Woodson, a ton of depth, but they've got the Fighting Petrinos will do the thing. I think they'll win something like 23-19 out in Dallas. And by the way, guys, when we were in Dallas for media days, Ken, that downtown Dallas where the Omni is was awesome. Brendan and I were there. You're up 5:30 or 6 in the morning. We were eating dinner usually around 9:30 at night and morning. Absolutely awesome out there. I mean, Dallas is a big city, but you feel like you're in a small town, and people there were really friendly. Let's talk about Georgia and Alabama. And Georgia and Alabama game tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa. A lot of people talk about the matchups. Georgia really doesn't have a Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers. So Alabama's got some receivers. They got a quarterback who can run it. But will he run it too much instead of throwing it and checking his reads? Because Georgia's going to come at him with a defense that's going to have their head spinning. What do you think's going to happen in the primetime game? And the big guy's going to be there in the box. And I know Tuberville is going to be going up there for that game and then coming back to Auburn. He's going back and forth between – he's going to do the Auburn game, and then he's going up to Tuscaloosa. So it's going to be a crazy day in Tuscaloosa, Ken. Yeah, that's the big guy.
And they've got the Donald in
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa,
Ken?
Rob. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, y'all were talking about earlier. I was just thinking about the Georgia Alabama game already. That has a lot to do with implications for the University of Texas as well, because the week after Oklahoma, October 19th, Georgia comes to Austin and plays Texas. And so, do they come in undefeated? And that game is just crazy as all get out. We were thinking, and you'll like this, Frank. We were thinking the other day that game will be the biggest game at Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium since the LSU game in 2019. That's how nutty it's going to be that week when Joe Burrow was the quarterback. It's going to be nuts. But if Georgia comes in with one loss, Georgia comes in with one loss, and they're really going to be trying to knock off Texas to try to get back in that, at least knock Texas out of number one. So this game has a lot of implications down the road, not just for this. I hate to be a wimp. I just don't know how to call this game. I don't know if Jalen Milroe, is going to come out and just play lights out, or is he going to have one of those games where the Georgia defense is just going to eat him alive? I like Alabama at home always, okay, but Georgia is in a position to take Alabama. I think they're not as strong as they were last year, in my opinion. But I would never bet against Alabama playing their game at home.
Frank Duffy, question for you, and I like this. Sven Kreuzberg, good German or Swedish name. Jackson Arnold next year will be at Mississippi because Jeff Lebby was at Oklahoma.
That's right.
And to tell you how vicious it is, Jackson Arnold's the highest rated offensive recruit signed in Oklahoma in the first half. How cruel this world is. Frank, your take on tomorrow. It doesn't go like everybody thinks Georgia doesn't have wideouts. Something tells me they're going to be a lot different team than we expect.
Yes. Well, I think one of those wideouts has to step up and take that mantle from Bowers or McConkey that they've had in the past. Some wide receiver, again, they need that signature wide receiver to step up. And I think this is going to have to be the stage, if you will, for them to do that. Because I do see Alabama shutting down their running game. You're going to have to stretch that Alabama defense if you're Georgia in a hostile place, especially if the crowd is in it. So I think you're going to have a big-time performance from one of those Georgia wide receivers. I just don't know which one it's going to be. But you're going to have someone have a 6-catch, 90-yard, 1 or 2 touchdown sort of performance for Georgia to get to that 24-point stage, because that's what it's going to take to win the game.
Yeah. Doug?
Sorry about the ambient noise. My lawn service chose this moment to run the blower right behind me. But screw it, damn it, the show goes on. Let me tell you what's going to happen with Georgia's got to do, and then I'm going to give you all the perfect meme for this tomorrow's big games in the state of Alabama. Georgia has got to force Milroe to throw in the middle part of the field. He's great with the deep ball. He's tremendous with his legs, but he's uncomfortable having to work every zone in the field unless he proves me wrong tomorrow. And Georgia can get an interception off of him like Texas did. They have a chance to win this, and I still like Alabama. Here's your perfect meme. General Jack Behringer, War Games, Rob, late in that movie. We have launch detection, and in both Auburn and Tuscaloosa, flush the bombers, man the subs. We're running DEFCON 1, baby.
We're going to wrap up here.
The state of Alabama is going to be insane tomorrow.
It is, and John Hartwell's coming in town. We're going to hopefully get to meet him for dinner tonight. But I will say this: we're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes because Brendan is down there fighting a battle with that storm coming through. Again, Chuck Lavelle is going to reschedule in the next few weeks. Down the legendary musician, man, watch that documentary on him. What a treat. He's one of the nicest for a guy that big. He is so gracious. And I was like, look, we will reschedule. Your safety is priority number one. And I want to thank Jason Campbell. He told me coming through. I love that guy. I love that. And what kid playing Taylorville, Mississippi, and all the battles he's been in. That's why we love this game. And we are so blessed. This off of a generator and getting a signal from outer space. Our motto on this show, you know what it is? Go out and bless others and keep finding excuses to win.
You,
and have a great weekend, everybody. We have the best viewers, the best sponsors, and all of you. We will see you Monday morning. A lot to talk about. Thanks for watching.
Boomer Sooner.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.